Okay, I am going to do a video on a film. This is my film review. I started one earlier and my brain is so fried I didn't have the right actors in it. Okay, so I'm going to do another one. I just washed my hair, so forgive me. I'm too cheap to buy a blow dryer, and my way of drying my hair is to throw my head out the window while I'm driving my car and let the air just blow it. Okay, like a dog. So that's my blow dryer is nature. It's so ecologically correct. I'm so ecologically correct. I amaze myself. Saves the environment. Stick your head out the window. Alright. Well, anyway, the film that I'm going to be reviewing is called Exodus, Gods and Kings, or something like that. Okay, and you've got Christian Bale as the lead. He plays Moses, okay? Okay. So when I see Christian Bale, basically I just see like this, you know, I always see an executive or something. So there's an executive playing Moses, and he's very serious in the movie, you know. And he's very pompous at the beginning, of course, because, you know, he's also Batman or something, I think. So I don't understand any of it. Well, Ridley Scott did the movie, and he likes like tons of CGI, which he did really well. In Avatar, he did great. Avatar is a great movie. I really enjoyed it. A lot of people didn't. I did. I really enjoyed it, and especially the CGI was fantastic. I don't particularly care for CGI. I like really cheap, shabby films that have really cheap, shabby special effects. But when CGI is done well, it's good. Well, there's a lot of CGI in this movie, Exodus, Gods and Kings, and it was about Moses. And this is going to be kind of a long video because it's kind of a long movie. The CGI was great, but the characters, I mean, please let me cast these roles. I beg you. I would be a great casting agent. Ridley Scott, help. Let me cast people, because this was like Christian Bale. I mean, as Moses, I mean, gee whiz. I mean, anybody. It just didn't work, all right? Oh, I kind of put up with that until they got to Ramses. When I saw Ramses, like the King Ramses, he's the same guy who was in The Big Lebowski. The guy who played Jesus the Bowler. I think his name is Turturro, John Turturro or something. You know, he's like Italian or Jewish or whatever, but he doesn't look Egyptian to me. I'm sorry. When I think of Egypt, you know, I think of people who are much darker skinned, to be honest with you, than the people that were in this movie. The only really dark skinned people in this movie were Nubian slaves. They were black. So they were, of course, slaves. You know, Ridley Scott's like, let's make the black people into slaves. Oh, that's great. You know, thanks, Ridley Scott. Yeah, even the bird thinks that's funny. Bird's from Brazil, so bird knows. But the thing is, Ramses, as John Turturro's Ramses, is like casting Woody Allen as Ramses. It just made no sense. You know, he didn't even look powerful. He looked like he was going to start bowling or something. And then you've got, of course, the infamously great actress Sigourney Weaver. Ridley Scott, that's his muse or something. He just like has to throw her in there and put a black wig on her. And I guess in his mind, if he put enough black eyeliner on these people, then suddenly they would look Egyptian. Including Sigourney Weaver, you know, which didn't work. You know, she's like, Ramses, please send Moses to the desert. You know, it's just like what? I sat there and said, what? And it was funny, actually. And, you know, and with the waving Ramses' beautiful palace with the you know, the wispy curtains and the big torches and everything you would expect from a temple. And of course and then there's the Jews, and they're all out there, you know, like building the so-called pyramids and, you know, being whipped and beaten and looking really scared and crap like that. Well, eventually Christian Bale, who's not wearing an Armani suit, okay, in this, he finds out he's actually a Jew, and Ramses II, or whomever, you know, comes next, who is going to fight Christian Bale, the Jew, he's like this kind of big, muscular looking guy, but he's not Yul Brynner, I can promise you. And he's wearing a lot of the eye makeup too, and talking to his gods, you know, and stuff. By then Moses is gone, you know, he's split, and he's met this really nice girl who does actually look incredibly Jewish. I mean, I don't mean to say people look or Jewish or not. I found out that my mother's Jewish, you know, but do I look like, and there's no such thing as like, you look Jewish, you know, you could all be Jewish and not even know it. I found that out through my DNA, so, you know. Mel Brooks would have done a better job as Moses in this. Anyway, he meets this really beautiful girl, and she's wearing a lot of spangles and henna kind of tattoos, and I'm thinking, hey, that's pretty cool, you know, I liked that, I like that. And then he goes up on the mountain. Okay, so the Charlton Heston movie, he goes on the mountain, and you get really bad special effects of a burning bush, and then you get the voice of God, the Old Testament God. And I know a lot of you guys really believe in that, and I totally respect that you do. I personally think it's baloney that that's just me, okay? I don't believe in the Old Testament God at all. And I think it's, you know, silly. But I totally respect people who do. If that's what they need to believe in, namaste to that. So anyway, the Old Testament God, you know, Moses gets to the mountain, and there he is, and he's standing there, and Christian Bale, you know, and he's all wearing rags and crap, and the mountain kind of falls on him, and he sinks into the mountain, and all of a sudden you see the burning bush. And I always like the concept of burning bush. You know, it's like a kind of an inside joke that you have a yeast infection if you're a woman. They say, got the burning bush today? Yeah, got a yeast infection, you know. Anyway, there's this burning bush, and it's really good because it's CGI. Okay, so it really looks like a burning bush, not like the one with Charlton Heston, where you've got cheap kind of special effects. Now, the first thing I was waiting for was to hear the voice of the Old Testament God, which would have been, Moses, listen to me, I am God. And instead, they changed it. So, you know, the director says, no, God is going to come as the form of a very little child, a 7-year-old boy who's having a temper tantrum, basically. Now, that actually made sense to me, because whenever I have read the Old Testament, it sounds like an adolescent God that hasn't grown up yet and is having temper tantrums. I don't like the earth anymore, so I'm just going to flood it because everybody's not doing what I want, you know, So there's this 7-year-old kid standing there, and he says, Moses, you have to do what I say, and, you know, and I'm God, and blah, blah, blah. And Christian Bale is like, you're God, you know, and I can tell. If I saw a 7-year-old kid having a temper tantrum, I'd be like, excuse me? You know, but anyway. So that was weird enough. And then I thought to myself, no wonder it got crappy reviews, because a lot of people who do believe in the Old Testament God as being a old man sitting up there on a mountain and, you know, with a burning bush, will be ticked off that God is portrayed as a child, right? Now, I can see God being portrayed as a child because it says in the Bible, it says, you have to be like a child to enter the kingdom of heaven. But I would say more like you have to be like an innocent baby who is in awe of the beauty and wonder of everything to enter the kingdom of heaven. This child was a little stinker. And so this child was like having a temper tantrum, and he wanted Moses to do what he wanted to do. So he sends Moses back to Ramses and with the rules. You've got to let my people go, let the Jews go. And Ramses the first, by now John Turturro he's already passed on, so see you later, dude. Short acting job for him on that one. And now the big Ramses is in charge, and he's got a kid and a wife, and he's got a baby and a wife, and he's like, oh, I'm a tough guy. He's like World War, he's like a, what is it, WWE wrestler. That's what he looked like to me, like he should be in the wrestling ring. And he's telling Christian Bale, who's like very humble and quietly asking him to please let the chosen people go and quit beating them up. And this Ramses guy is like, hell no, I'm not going to do that. And Moses is like, well, then you're going to be sorry, because things are going to happen. Well, wow, did things happen? Let me tell you what happened. CGI orgy, man. I mean, the only reason for even watching this movie is to watch the CGI. First of all, Moses has nothing to do. You know how when Charlton Heston's movie, in comparison, he would like make his staff into a snake or put his staff in the water and the water turned red, and it was like really crappy special effects. But Moses did the work, and with the Old Testament God doing it through him. Not in this movie. In this movie, the little boy was doing all the work, and Moses kept saying, "Please don't, don't send any more, plagues." The little boy's like, they haven't seen anything yet, The little boy that's playing the Old Testament God, I'm gonna let my people go, and they better behave themselves, Moses. So the first thing the kid sends, the Old Testament God kid, is like plagues and plagues and plagues of crocodiles. Okay, like thousands of them CGI. And they're eating all the fish, and the rivers are turning red, and all the people are freaking out. All the Egyptians are saying, oh, we've lost our harvests. Oh my God, And then there's one right after the other. Bam, bam, bam. And then everybody's got the plague. Everybody gets the plague. And everybody's breaking out in boils, and boils are abscessing on everybody. And then locusts come, and the kids just like throwing stuff at them. And Moses is like, enough, enough. Christian Bale's yelling, geez, you're really overdoing it here. And the kid's like, no, more CGI, more CGI. So he keeps throwing more CGI at these people. So the Egyptians are freaking out. They've lost their water source. They've lost their crops. They're plagued. The plague is everything's it's terrible, And the Jews are like, what the heck's going on, Because they're all living in the ghetto, of the Egyptians got a ghetto for them. So the Jews are like, what the heck's going on? Well, then Moses finally says to the little kid, he says, enough, God, enough. You've overdone it. And the kid says, which I cracked up, says, you haven't seen anything yet. Well, that was bizarre. You haven't seen anything yet. So the last thing the kid does, of course, is he's gonna, murder the firstborn child of every Egyptian family, as his last punch, because the kid's really having a temper tantrum now. He's probably going through puberty at this point. And so Moses runs around and he's telling all the Jews, kill a lamb, which was horrible. I mean, you're watching people killing these lambs, and like, don't kill animals on screen. I can't stand that. Anyway, killing these lambs and slaughtering them, and the lambs are like, oh God, don't pick it on. The lambs are like, don't pick on us. So they're putting blood over everybody's houses, so the Jews don't get, their firstborn kids are safe. And that's the Passover, right? And they're all hiding in their houses while this black cloud, CGI cloud, of course, really great CGI cloud, comes over the land of Egypt, and then all the Egyptians are, freaking out. And there's wailing and gnashing of teeth, unless you don't have any teeth like me. There's wailing and gnashing of teeth, and the babies are all like, and it shows that, it's like this baby goes, and you're seeing these children, and these people are like, oh, my children. So finally the Pharaoh, Ramses, gives in, and it's like, get out, take your people and go, So they do. The chosen people, and Moses leading them with Aaron and all the other, and his wife and kids, and they're all carrying their donkeys and their goats, and hopefully they're not going to slaughter any more lambs, and they're all walking in thousands and thousands, thousands of extras, CGI landscape, and they're all walking out. But of course Ramses is so PO'd about his son being, that he says, okay, I'm gonna go after Moses. And then you've got lots more CGI. Okay, so this is like CGI central here. So you've got Ramses coming down the mountain with the last of his armies, and they're falling off the mountain and stuff. And Moses is like, well, how are we gonna get across the sea? And then all of a sudden, instead of the cool CGI, the cheap effects in the Charlton Heston movie were like the, Red Sea parts, and it's dry land. And then everybody runs through, and then the Pharaoh's army comes through, and boom, the Red Sea falls on top of it. And then you can see all these people, oh, we're drowning, Egyptians are drowning. I kind of liked that one, And Moses was standing there looking kind of old and like Moses, but Christian Bale standing there just doesn't do it for me. I'm waiting for him to look at his, Rolex and say, oh, I've got a meeting. But, so, this was a whole different Red Sea experience. It's impossible to describe. All I know is that the little boy who plays the Old Testament God sort of makes the Red Sea go down so that they can kind of cross through slushy waters. And you're like, ooh, they're getting wet. All the Jews are getting wet. So, but they get through. And then Ramses tries to get through, and then these big waves come, but they're CGI waves, so they're more real looking, and then they take out the Pharaoh and his army and blah blah blah. So it's really a big giant CGI fest, and I can see why a lot of people didn't care for it, because people who were going in there who really believed in the elderly man as God, like the one in the Sistine Chapel, I'm God, I'm making Adam kind of guy. Well, that wasn't the God that showed up in this movie. So that's going to tick off a lot of people who believe in that. Because God was shown as a little kid who was going, pre-puberty, and wearing a ragged old costume. And then Christian Bale, at the end, he's like still going through the desert, and he's real old, because we all know Moses didn't make it the whole way through. So he's like sitting but he's got a smile on his face, like, I did it, I got my people through, right? We shall overcome and all that stuff. I was waiting for them to start singing that. The whole movie was really boring, except for the CGI. But the CGI was so CGI that it was just, you should have had those 3D glasses on so you could see the locusts coming at you. It would have made it more interesting. So the whole movie just got bad reviews all around because it was unbelievable, I actually believe the Charlton Heston movie more. And you didn't get to see the pagans having an orgy, which would have really been cool. I was really looking forward to that. So, or the Jews. Remember when the Jews had the orgy around the golden calf? That was completely taken out. That was the best part of the Charlton Heston movie. I mean, I really missed that part. So, the whole thing was just a terrible movie, and I give it 2 stars for the CGI. Being so insanely overused that it was worth seeing. Otherwise, it was a terrible movie, and don't see it unless, you're into that stuff. And let's just hope he makes another Alien movie again or something, because those were all good. Alright, so that's my movie review for today. I'm going to go out and dry my hair by driving around in my car, And thank you for listening. This is a really long video. My God. All right, bye.